Hey guys, Dan here, welcome to this video. Today we're talking about dashboards, but not the physical dashboards, but actually the software or like the dashboard file that is running in Simhub. Because I think in the end, that is the most important thing. If you want to utilize a dash, you should know one dashboard, which in my opinion is the best on the market, and that is the Lovely dashboard. Lovely dashboard is a universal dashboard. Works very well with iRacing, with ACC and many other games. And it does not replicate a real car dash, but it's more like an all-in-one solution that should work with pretty much any car. And I think that's kind of important because at least if you hop between different cars, I think it's always difficult to remember what is where on the dash, and then you're driving and you're trying to find the brake bias or something. And this is where, in my opinion, using a dashboard that is always the same is much more helpful than having a replica of the exact car one. So I've tested several dashboards, and actually I only recently discovered Lovely dashboard, but I think it is by far the best dashboard that you can use. I will show you how to install it. You need Simhub for it, and then I'll show you the features of the dash. So at the moment, the latest Lovely dashboard version that is publicly available is version 1.6.11, I think. You can get that from the GitHub from Lovely Sim Racing. I'll leave a link in the description below. I'm going to show you the pre-release version of the Lovely dashboard version 2 though. It is available on the Discord, but you need to be a Lovely member. That's a Patreon supporter page. I think it's like €3 or so per month. If you want to support the development and have an early look, I'll leave the links in the description below. I think it's great, and I think it's always worth to support developers that do this kind of stuff. But it will be released for free in the future as well. So pretty simple to install it. Grab all the files from the Discord or from the GitHub, depending on which version you want to install. That should give you these files here. And what you want to do is pretty much, this is the dashboard file itself. You will need Simhub. If you don't know Simhub, I'm not going to cover that in this video, otherwise the video would be too long. But if you're a sim racer, you should familiarize yourself with Simhub. Can highly recommend. So just double click this to install it. You will need the Oswald font. Just double click to install. And then there are 3 files as well: the dash, background, JPEG, and a JavaScript and a JSON file. Copy those. Then go to your Simhub directory. Should be C program files x86 Simhub, and then go to JavaScript extensions and then paste these in here. I've already done that, so I'm not going to overwrite them. And the cool thing is you have several options to customize the dash in this JSON file. So for example, I put in my name, my number, my color, stuff like that. You can add your LFM ID, which is pretty cool. Then it shows you the registrations for the next LFM race. Have a look. It's all described very well here in the file. I think one interesting thing is the tire lap average reset key is set to A per default. You can use the Simhub joystick to keyboard mapping tool to put this on a wheel button as well. I just have it on A, it's fine. I have a button on my Stream Deck assigned to A to reset that, but I'll show you what that is doing in the game. Then after you have installed it, it should be available in your dashboard list. And you will need to assign 4 function triggers. It's the trigger dash action A, B, C, D. You can use buttons on your wheel if you want to. You can also use the touchscreen if you have a touchscreen. I'll show you how to assign that. Just be careful here. I made the mistake. I tried to assign the touchscreen zones while I'm not in the game, but if you see the dash screen here, these zones will not work. So you need to make sure you actually load up a session. Then you see the dash, and then you can go here and assign the touch zone. So there's one on the left, the button A, one on the right, button B. The fuel is button C, and then the thing in the middle here is button D. Assign these, then you can go through all the function blocks over the dash. And like I said, if you want to add, for example, I don't know, a button for this as well, you can do so. If you do not have a wheel with a dashboard or like an external dash, you can still use the device. All you need to do is in Simhub go to Dash Studio, go to Dashboards, click on Start, click on Windowed, and then just put it on top of the real car dash, for example. Works as well. I will show you how it works on the wheel though. Before we hit the track, I'll quickly show you the layout. On the top left, you have like little function buttons that show you. Did I assign the light? I didn't. So for example, this shows the light if you turn it on. Do you see that on the camera? Yeah, you can see it. Attention to detail. When you turn on the light, the dash actually automatically dims a little. That is, I don't know, it's just a feature I think is super cool. Like You see, this is done by somebody that actually uses this stuff, and it's just clever. Then you can see if I enable the wipers, you see the different settings here. Green off, 1, 2, 3, and a little button for the ignition. See, now we have that power symbol. And if I click the starter now, this will turn green. So this is a little widget area that shows you the status of the basic functions of the car. Then in the top right, you will always have a little session display. So right now it shows us there are 57 minutes of practice left. We're currently P1 because nobody has set a lap time yet. We are on lap 1 and the current time of day in the sim is 9 o'clock. And then in this area here, we have the widgets. So there are 2 areas that you can assign to widgets that you like, and every side of the widget can show the same thing. So for example, if you want to, you can have the damage on both sides. Not that it really makes sense, but you can put whatever you want in there and you can just go through it by tapping on the screen, or if you assign the hardware button, then just click the hardware button. To go through it, we have a little track map. Whether that is really useful on a small dash like on the Hyper here, I doubt it. Might be more useful if you have a big 6.8-inch dash closer to the screen, for example. But it's a cool, nice to have feature. It's always zoomed in a little so you can actually see something there. Then the next one is the lap timing widget. We will go on the track in a second. So this will actually display something. But it shows you your estimated lap time, your last lap and your best lap. Then we have sectors, which also works well on iRacing now. Shows all the sectors the tracks have. It typically was limited to 3 sectors before, but that has been fixed. So you can see your sector times here. Then the next one is a relative. It is not super accurate on Simhub because it gets the data from Simhub, obviously. And I don't know, the ACC, API, telemetry, whatever. It's just like giving overlay makers a hard time. It doesn't really correspond to the relative in-game. And the one in-game even isn't really good. But there's a relative. It should be good for a rough estimate, but don't use it for super precise judgment of gaps and stuff like that. Then there's a standing overlay. You can see we are last now. Next one is tire pressures. Shows you the current pressure, the brake temperature, and the tire surface temperature, I think. Or is it the core temperature? I'm not exactly sure. It shows you pretty much whatever the in-game dashboard will show you for tire temperature. So I guess it's core temperature. Will also show you which tire set you're on, dry 1 at the moment. And this is insanely useful for ACC, the tire pressure simulator. It is taking the average of 2 laps of your tire pressures. So especially, let's say you're at the end of your stint, you want to see how do I have to adjust my tire pressures for the next stint. You can enable this, reset it, drive 2 laps and get the exact reading of your average tire pressure. Super useful. We'll show none right now, not a number because we haven't driven a meter yet. But this is where this key that you can assign in that settings file comes into play. For example, if I hit A now, you see it shows clearing and then it goes, let's actually, oh, I should start my pedals. Let's actually drive a meter so it gets some data. Okay, we're out of the pits now, and you can see now the average tire pressure is, if I put the other widget on here, is exactly the same as the current pressures because, well, if you haven't driven a lot, then average is the same as the current one, obviously. Then there's a damage meter, so if I'll just quickly drive against the wall here, it will now show I have heavy damage on the front, the left side has medium damage. The right side is okay, and somehow by driving with the front into the tire barrier, I managed to damage the rear as well. Interesting. It will also show you the estimated pit time, 1 minute and 10 seconds. But what I discovered here, the estimated pit time only shows you the damage of the bodywork. If you have suspension damage, then this is not being shown here. Then, since we currently are sitting in the tire barrier and there's a yellow flag, you can see here, Sector 1, yellow flag at the moment. It's just so much cool stuff on here. I think everybody should at least try out this dashboard. It's just, in my opinion, the best dashboard out there that you can use. Okay, then, well, on the right side, you can have exactly the same, obviously. Then there's one area in the middle Let's turn on the car. That will show you your current gear, RPMs, and then very, very tiny, it shows you the air temperature, the track state, really cool for ACC. You see this OPT, that means track state optimal right now. You have a weather prediction in here, so it's sunny right now, in 10 minutes still sunny, in 30 minutes still sunny. Not very useful on iRacing, but I'm sure we'll get rain soon, Copium. You can also go through 3 widgets here. One is just RPM and gear. One is with the current clock on top. And another one will show you a delta against your best lap. For that we will have to drive a little bit. We'll do that in a second. And then in the bottom right, we'll also have to drive a little bit to get information on that. And what I typically use on ACC, at least during qualifying, or when I'm trying to estimate which tire pressures I need, I have the current tire pressures on the left and the 2-lap average on the right. You can, by the way, also configure how many laps it should average in that settings file. I think 2 is a good value. I think it's also the default one. Dash also will show you when you're in the pit limiter, obviously. And then on the bottom, you also have the traction control set to 3 right now. Traction control cut, also known as TC2, is disabled, so this will show 0. Then we have the ABS, the brake bias. If I change that, you can see it here. And the current motor map set to 1. But yeah, I hope it won't be too bad to read the dash while I'm driving here. But I thought it would be a bit cooler to show this on the wheel than just with a capture of the Simhub screen. But you can now see that the average... Well, first of all, we're gonna reset it now that we have some data. So let's say you just did 20 laps and you wanna estimate the average tire pressures of the next 2 laps. It should work by just doing nothing because it will always average the last 2 laps. But if you ever wanna reset it, press A or whatever key you assigned for a second, then it will clear it. You see not a number for a short second, and then it will start averaging the last 2 laps again. I've had a few cases where this was a little bit buggy after some laps, so just clear the data if you want to get a new reading. I think especially for ACC it's really, really useful. But yeah, you also have nice widgets, or like pop-ups, not really widgets, pop-ups if you change car settings, traction control for example. What else do I have here? Is this doing? Oh yeah, TC, this is TC2 or TC cut. You can see I have that disabled on the Lambo here. So let's go. Car is still okay. Track map works. You can see my lap times. Estimated lap 31 minutes. Last lap 12 minutes. This will work when we finished 1 lap. You can see the sector times updating here. Currently in sector 2. On sector 3. Then you have the relative here. See all the cars around you. God, it's so hard to look at the screen and talk at the same time, plus drive at the same time. There you can see the relative is a little... This is not 1.9 seconds here, the car had. That's the Simhub problem. Well, probably the data that Kunos is giving to Simhub. So, will we improve from P28? No, we are 5.7 seconds off the pace. Ah, shame. But that's not the point here. But you can see now the tires are getting hotter. The average obviously is still below that because we did start with cold tires. So after a full 2 laps and 2 laps on hot tires, this is a very, very good indicator to estimate how you need to change your tire pressures. But we can now see the fuel calculator here. We have 32 liters left. Average consumption 1.88 liters. That corresponds to the value that the game is showing as well. And this should give us fuel for 17 laps. Also corresponds to the game. And then we can also click this. Then it will also show you that the fuel should be for 35 more minutes of driving. So if you want to estimate, for example, if you have a stint timer, you want to see if you have enough fuel for that. Very, very useful. And then another one is a refuel. I mean, we are just in a practice session here, so there's obviously not really useful information. I mean, If I wanted to finish this practice session, I would have to refuel 26 liters. More useful in a race, obviously. Let's see if it updates now, because I guess the fuel consumption is 1.82. Yeah, see? I was more efficient on the last lap. Saved the planet and stuff. So now it tells me to refuel less liters. So yeah, I think there's everything that you need in this dashboard. You can always, like, at a glance, see what's going on with the car. And yeah, I think it's awesome. Some of the widgets do not work on iRacing, obviously. I mean, iRacing is more of a basic simulation where you don't have weather, you don't have tire pressures that, well, you do have tire pressures, but they don't really matter as much as on ACC. You don't have to meet like a specific window. You typically just go lowest tire pressure. So on iRacing, the tire overlays are not there. You get one different widget with an overview of the car, oil temperature, stuff like that. Actually, let's hop into iRacing. I'll quickly show you the different widget that is available there. But before, let me get out of this game. One insanely cool feature is the LFM integration. So let's say I sign up to this race in 1 hour. It will actually show you on the splash screen or on the desktop or whatever, idle screen, when your next LFM race is about to start. So now I signed up for it. You can see it's in 1 hour on the website. And it will also show on top of the wheel here. I think it's so cool. 2015 ACC, Coach Dave GT3 Sprint Series, Split 1, the session ID. It's just the attention to detail of this dash is just amazing. I think Konstantinos did a great job here, and you should all definitely get this dash. But let's quickly hop into iRacing. I'll just go into a test session. And while this is loading, let me actually give you a little ad here. Because Konstantinos from Lovely Sim Racing, he also made the GSI Hyper P1 dash. If you look at this, you can probably recognize similarities in that widget layout. I mean, we are now in that idle screen, so no widgets being shown. But this is actually a clock. I don't exactly know how to read it, but it's showing the hours, the minutes, and the seconds around the screen. But yeah, you can probably tell it has a similar layout, a bit more basic compared to the Lovely Dash. The Lovely Dash is way more feature-packed. This is a more toned-down version that fits the design language of the Hyper. You can also use this with any wheel, with any dash, or without a dash, just on the monitor. You can get it for free on either the Lovely Sim Racing Discord or on the GSI Discord. Links are down below, of course. Feel free to have a look at this as well. You can also have a relative, the lap time widget thing here, sectors, track map, and then you have traction control 2, brake bias, the pop-up. Oh, I don't. Yeah, I'm on iRacing. I never change settings here. We have to go through the black box here. So if I change the traction control, you have these pop-ups as well. A fuel calculator, estimated 0 laps, average 0 liters. I haven't driven a lap, so this is not showing anything. But you also have a pedal overlay on the left side. So you can see here. That's also on the other dash, by the way. I haven't shown it. And then there's a little compact relative. It's like showing the gap to the car ahead and behind you. Then the delta bar, timing, gear, RPM, and fuel on the right. But let's go back to the lovely dashboard because this is why I made the video. You can see the pedal overlay, for example, is in the middle here. Green is throttle. Brake is red. You have pretty much a similar layout on iRacing, obviously. You don't have a wiper icon. I wonder why. iRacing, rain, when, please. I'm sure we'll have Rennsport with rain before iRacing rain drops. Who knows? Rain drops. Whatever. You also have ignition, starter, lights, and then an incident counter, I guess. I'll drive in the grass now. This goes to 1x. So you always... everything is there at a glance. No weather forecast, you just have the temperature of the track and air in the middle. And then here you can also see that status widget that is not available on ACC, but only on iRacing. That shows you oil temperature, oil pressure, oil level, fuel pressure, water temperature, and battery voltage. Some of these infos that are shown there are a little bit useless. To be honest, I think it's probably very interesting for oval racers where you need to have a look at your oil and water temperature. The rest is just, it's a widget with status infos, but there's no tire pressure widget like on ACC because iRacing doesn't give us that data in real time. And also we don't really need that info because you don't adjust tire pressure on iRacing. You just, whether the track is at minus 50 degree or 200 degrees, you always drive the same tire pressures. That's pretty much the overview of what this dash can do. I can highly recommend to check it out. It might not be as immersive as having a replica of the real dash, but if we look at the real dash right now, I don't know. I'd rather prefer to have these little widgets that I can customize while driving by just using my hands. Have the fuel calculator there. It's actually pretty accurate. It helps me to always have the same information at the same place, whether I drive iRacing GT3, ACC GT3, or an LMP2 or whatever. Everything is always at the same place. If I want to check my brake bias, it's there. If TC is there, I don't have to look at the dash and figure out, okay, yeah, where is the brake bias right now? If I look at that Audi dash, for example, I think it doesn't even show you the current brake bias, stuff like that. Try it out. I think it's insanely helpful. It's the best dash that I have tried. Can just highly recommend it, as you can probably tell. So that's it for this video. Lovely sim racing dashboard. Check it out. If you have any questions, leave them down in the comments down below. Join the lovely sim racing Discord. There's a nice little community there. Very helpful if you have questions. Probably the best to ask there. And yeah, if you liked the video, give it a thumbs up. Maybe subscribe to the channel to not miss any future videos. And I hope to see you all in the next one. Bye bye.